Captain Velthara stood on the bridge of the Nexus Seeker, watching the blue and green planet through the massive viewing screen. Her scaled hands moved across the control panel as she studied the data from their sensors. For 3 cycles, her research team had been watching this world and its strange creatures called humans. "Captain, we have found the perfect target," Dr. Kixandra announced as she entered the bridge. The tall, thin alien carried a data pad in her 4-fingered hands. Her large eyes gleamed with excitement as she showed the information on the screen. "Tell me about the specimen," Velthara said, her voice deep and commanding. "The human is working at a construction site in the eastern part of the largest continent. He appears to be a typical male of their species. Taya scans show he is 32 years old in their counting system. His basic muscle development and shows no signs of being special among his kind." Commander Noctul walked over to join them. His massive frame cast a shadow over the smaller aliens as he looked at the data. "These humans look weak, Captain. Their bones are thin, their muscles are small, and they have no natural weapons like claws or fangs. I do not understand why the Empire wants to study such pathetic creatures." Dr. Kixandra nodded in agreement. "Our research shows they live very short lives compared to us. They can only survive in a narrow range of temperatures and need to consume food and water constantly. They are clearly one of the weakest species we have encountered." Velthara studied the image of the human on the screen. The creature was using some kind of tool to move heavy objects at the construction site. He looked ordinary, just like all the other humans they had observed. His black hair was cut short, and he wore simple clothing that covered most of his pale skin. "What is his name?" she asked. "According to our language analysis, he is called Li Teho. He lives alone in a small dwelling unit near the construction site. Our scans show he has minimal social connections, which makes him perfect for our needs. No one will miss him immediately." Noctul crossed his massive arms. "Still think we are wasting time with these weak creatures? The Empire has conquered dozens of worlds with species far stronger than these humans. What can we possibly learn from them? The Science Council wants samples from every species we encounter," Velthara replied firmly. "These humans may be weak, but they have covered their entire planet with their settlements. There must be something that allows them to survive and spread so widely." Dr. Kixandra activated another screen showing various human activities. "They do seem to have some intelligence, Captain. They have created simple tools and basic spacecraft, but their technology is primitive compared to ours. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet's surface." The 3 aliens watched as the human called Li Teho continued his work. He moved steadily, lifting heavy metal beams and placing them in precise positions. Other humans worked around him, but he seemed focused only on his own tasks. "He shows good coordination for such a simple creature," Velthara observed. "How do you plan to capture him?" "We will wait until he is alone and away from the other humans," Dr. Kixandra explained. "Our sensors show he walks home the same path every day after work. There's a section where he passes through an area with no other humans nearby. We can use a simple stun beam to render him unconscious and transport him to our ship." Noctua laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "1 stun beam for a human. Captain, I could capture this creature with my bare hands. They are so fragile that even our weakest weapons would be too much for them. We want this specimen alive and unharmed," Velthara warned. "The Science Council needs complete data, and a damaged specimen would be useless." The hours passed as they watched and waited. Li Teho worked steadily through the day, showing no signs of the weakness they expected. He lifted heavy objects that seemed to require significant effort, but he never stopped to rest like the other humans did. "Trusting," Dr. Kixandra muttered as she studied her readings. His heart rate and breathing remained steady even during heavy work. Whole species would show signs of stress by now. Perhaps he is stronger than the average human, Valthera suggested. Impossible, Captain. Our scans show his muscle mass is typical for his species, simply cannot be that much stronger than the others. The sun began to set on the human world. Lee Taeho finished his work and began walking home. The aliens watched as he followed his usual path, moving through the busy streets before turning into a quieter area. Target is approaching the capture zone, Dr. Kixandra announced. All systems ready, Captain. Valthara nodded. Initiate capture sequence. The ship's transport beam locked onto the human as he walked alone down the empty street. Taeho was looking at a small device in his hand when the beam struck him. For a moment, he stumbled and looked around in confusion. Then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. Transport complete, announced the ship's computer. Specimen secured in examination chamber 1. The 3 aliens made their way to the medical bay, where their new specimen lay unconscious on the examination table. Lee Taeho looked even smaller and more fragile under the bright lights of the medical facility. Dr. Kixandra began her initial scans immediately. All vital signs are stable, Captain. However, I am detecting some unusual readings. What kind of unusual readings? Valthera asked. His unconscious state is lasting longer than our calculations predicted. The stun beam should have worn off by now, but he remains deeply unconscious. Also, his vital signs are remarkably stable for a creature that should be experiencing severe stress. Noctul leaned over the examination table and studied the human closely. He looks even weaker up close. Look at his soft skin and small bones. I have seen stronger creatures in the nurseries of my homeworld. His muscle density is lower than we expected, Dr. Kixandra continued, but there are some strange fiber patterns in his tissue. I have never seen anything like this before. Valthera walked around the examination table, studying their captive from different angles. Something about this human seemed different from what their long-range observations had suggested. He appeared calm, even in unconsciousness, as if being kidnapped by aliens was not the most stressful thing that had ever happened to him. How long until he wakes up? She asked. Based on his metabolism and the strength of the stun beam, he should regain consciousness within the next few hours, Dr. Kixandra replied. I suggest we begin the standard examination procedures while he is still unconscious. Agreed, but monitor his vital signs carefully. Okay. We need this specimen alive and functional for our research. As the medical team began their work, none of them noticed the slight change in Lee Taeho's breathing pattern, somewhere deep in his unconscious mind. The former Special Forces soldier was already beginning to wake up, and his military training was quietly assessing the situation around him. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had assumed that capturing a human would be simple and safe. They were about to learn that assumptions about unknown species could be very dangerous things to make. Lee Taeho's eyes opened slowly, but his mind was already fully awake. Years of military training had taught him to assess his situation before moving or making any sound. He lay perfectly still on the cold metal table, listening to the strange voices speaking in a language he had never heard before. The room smelled different from anything on Earth. There was a metallic scent mixed with something that reminded him of ozone after lightning. The air felt thicker than normal, and the gravity seemed slightly lighter. Without moving his head, he used his peripheral vision to study his surroundings. The ceiling was much higher than any normal room, and the walls curved in ways that human architecture never used. Strange lights provided illumination without casting shadows, the way Earth lights did. Most importantly, he could see 3 figures standing near what appeared to be control panels. The figures were definitely not human. Dr. Kixandra noticed the change in the specimen's vital signs first. Captain, the human is regaining consciousness. His brain activity has increased significantly in the past few minutes. Excellent, Valthera replied. We can begin the communication protocols as soon as he is fully awake. Commander Noctul moved closer to the examination table. Finally, I want to see how this weak creature reacts when it realizes where it is. Most species panic when they first see us. Tejo decided it was time to act. He sat up slowly and calmly, turning his head to look directly at each of the aliens. His expression remained neutral as he studied their appearance and estimated their physical capabilities. The aliens were surprised by his reaction. Most captured specimens either screamed in terror or cowered in fear when they first saw their captors. This human simply looked at them with what appeared to be professional interest. "Greetings, human," Dr. Kixandra said through the universal translator. Kesa, the device, converted her words into Korean, which surprised Tejo even more than seeing the alien's head. "You speak Korean," Tejo replied in a steady voice. "That means you have been watching my planet for some time." The three aliens exchanged glances. They had expected confusion and fear, not logical deduction. "We have been observing your species for research purposes," Velthara explained. "You have been selected as a representative specimen for study." Tejo nodded, as if this made perfect sense. "How many ships do you have in this fleet? What is your crew complement? How long have you been in our solar system?" Dr. Kixandra blinked her large eyes in confusion. "Atia, why are you asking these questions? You should be afraid or demanding to know where you are." "I know where I am," Tejo replied calmly. "I am on an alien spacecraft, probably in orbit around Earth or nearby. You have technology advanced enough for interstellar travel and universal translation. You captured me because you think humans are weak and easy to study. Cool. My questions are about tactical assessment." Commander Noctul laughed his grinding stone laugh. "Tactical assessment. You are a construction worker, not a soldier. What would you know about tactics?" Tejo looked directly at the large alien commander. "I was a soldier before I became a construction worker. Korean Special Forces, 707th Battalion. I served in operations that your intelligence gathering apparently missed." The alien's confident expressions began to change. Dr. Kixandra checked her datapad frantically. "There is no record of military service in our observations of this specimen. Your observations were not as complete as you thought," Tejo said. He swung his legs over the side of the examination table and stood up. The aliens tensed, but he made no aggressive moves. Instead, he began walking slowly around the room, examining the equipment and layout. "What are you doing?" Velthara demanded. "Learning," Tejo replied simply. "Huh, you have made several mistakes already. First, you assumed that watching humans from a distance would tell you everything about us. Second, you thought that capturing one human would be safe and easy. Third, you believed that all humans do only one job their entire lives." He paused near a piece of medical equipment and studied its design. "This is interesting technology. The power source appears to be some kind of contained energy field. Interface suggests your species has longer fingers than humans. But the overall design is not that different from our medical scanners." Dr. Kixandra was becoming alarmed. "How can you understand our technology so quickly?" "Because I was trained to adapt and learn," Tejo answered. "Special Forces soldiers must be able to use enemy equipment, learn enemy languages, and survive in hostile environments. You have given me a perfect learning opportunity." Commander Noctul had heard enough. This pathetic creature thinks it can intimidate us with words. He moved toward Tejo with his massive arms spread wide. "Let me show you how weak your species really is, human." Tejo watched the alien approach with the same calm expression he had maintained since waking up. When Noctul reached for him, Tejo moved. The human's speed shocked all three aliens. Tejo grabbed a surgical instrument from the nearby table and drove it into the joint of Noctula's arm before the commander could react. As the alien roared in pain and surprise, Tejo used his momentum to sweep the commander's legs and send the massive creature crashing to the floor before the other aliens could respond. Tejo had armed himself with 2 more surgical tools and positioned himself where he could see all the exits and control panels. "Now we can have a proper conversation," Tejo said, his voice still calm despite having just disabled an alien twice his size. Dr. Kixandra stared in shock at Commander Noctul, who was struggling to get back to his feet while nursing his injured arm. "That is impossible. Our scans showed you have insufficient muscle mass for such actions." "Your scans measured my muscles at rest," Tejo explained. "Human muscles are designed differently than yours. We have what we call fast twitch and slow twitch fibers. Under stress or in combat situations, we can generate much more force than our normal state would suggest." Captain Valthara was beginning to realize they had made a serious error. "What do you want, human?" "I want to go home," Tejo replied. "But first, I want to know more about your species and your intentions toward Earth. You see, Captain, you made another mistake. Q assumed that humans are not curious about the universe around us." He gestured toward the viewing screen that showed Earth in the distance. "We have been watching the stars for thousands of years, wondering if we were alone. When we developed the technology to detect your ship, we knew this day would come. We have been preparing." "Preparing for what?" Valtara asked, though she was beginning to suspect she did not want to know the answer. Tejo smiled for the first time since waking up, but it was not a friendly expression. "Preparing for first contact. We just did not expect it to begin with the kidnapping." The 3 aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. This simple research mission was becoming something much more complicated and dangerous than they had ever imagined. Captain Valtara ordered her security team to surround the examination room, but she told them to keep their weapons lowered. The human had already proven he could move faster than they expected, and she did not want to escalate the situation further until she understood what they were really dealing with. Lee Tejo remained in his defensive position, still holding the improvised weapons. He watched the additional aliens enter the room and noted their equipment and positioning. His military training automatically cataloged their weapons, armor, and tactical formation. "You are bringing more soldiers," Tejo observed calmly. "Suggests you are taking me more seriously now." "We are taking precautions," Valthera replied. "You have demonstrated capabilities that our research did not predict." "Your research was incomplete," Tejo said. He set down one of the surgical tools as a gesture of limited trust. "Perhaps we should share information instead of making assumptions about each other." Dr. Kixandra was still trying to understand. "What had happened? How did you move so quickly?" "Our calculations show that your muscle structure cannot generate that much force." "You calculated wrong," Tejo replied. "Human muscles work differently than you expected. Okay, we are built for survival in a dangerous world." He looked around the room at all the aliens watching him. "Let me tell you about Earth, and maybe you will understand why your assumptions were wrong." Commander Noctul had finally gotten back to his feet, still holding his injured arm. "We do not need lectures from a primitive creature." "Commander," Valthera said sharply. "Let him speak. We need to understand what we are dealing with." Tejo nodded to the captain. "Earth is not a gentle world like you might think. Our planet tries to kill us every day. We have storms that can destroy entire cities. We have earthquakes that split the ground open. We have volcanoes that can change the climate of the whole planet." Dr. Kixandra activated her recording equipment. Despite the situation, she was still a scientist and wanted to document everything. "The temperature on Earth ranges from hot enough to kill you in minutes to cold enough to freeze your blood." Tejo continued. "We have deserts where there is no water for hundreds of kilometers. We have mountains so high that the air is too thin to breathe. We have oceans so deep that the pressure would crush your ship." The aliens listened with growing concern as Tejo described his world. Humans live in all of these places, he said. We do not just survive them. We build cities in them. We climb the highest mountains for fun. We dive to the bottom of the oceans to explore. We live in the frozen lands and the burning deserts because we choose to. Captain Valthera was beginning to understand. Your species evolved to handle extreme conditions. We evolved to handle everything, Tejo replied. And when the natural world was not dangerous enough, we made it more dangerous ourselves. He looked directly at Commander Noctul. You think I am weak because I am smaller than you? But I have a sister named Park Sojin who studies life in the deepest parts of our oceans. She goes down in small vehicles where the water pressure is so strong it would turn your ship into a small ball. She does this regularly because it is her job. Dr. Kixandra checked her data pad. That level of pressure is impossible for most life forms to survive. Most life forms are not human, Tejo said. We had a man who climbed the highest mountain on Earth without breathing equipment. We have people who run across entire deserts without stopping. We have soldiers who can stay awake and fighting for days without rest. The aliens were becoming increasingly uncomfortable, as they realized their captive was describing capabilities that far exceeded their own. You said you were a soldier, Velthara said. Tell us about human warfare. Taiho's expression became more serious. That is a dangerous subject, Captain. Are you sure you want to know? We need to understand your species completely, human. Warfare is not like what other species do, Tejo began. We do not fight for territory or resources alone. We fight for ideas, for beliefs, for the right to exist as we choose. We have weapons that can destroy entire continents. We have created ways to kill that are so terrible we made agreements never to use them. Commander Noctul scoffed despite his injury. Impossible. No species would create weapons they could not control. We created weapons we could control perfectly, Tejo replied. That was what made them so terrifying. We built enough nuclear weapons to destroy our entire planet several times over. We kept them ready to use for decades, knowing that using them would kill everything. The aliens stared at him in horror. Why would any species do such a thing? Dr. Kixandra whispered, "'Cause we would rather die than surrender our freedom," Tejo answered simply. This is what you need to understand about humans. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid of losing the right to choose how we live. Captain Velthara was beginning to realize the magnitude of their mistake. What other weapons do humans possess? We have weapons that can kill from the other side of the planet. We have poisons that can eliminate entire armies. We have diseases that we keep locked away because they are too dangerous to exist. We have ways of fighting that can destroy a civilization without ever landing a single soldier on their world. Security team was becoming visibly nervous as Tejo described human military capabilities. But the most dangerous weapon humans possess is our ability to adapt and learn, Tejo continued. Give us any technology and we will understand it. Give us any problem and we will solve it. Give us any enemy and we will find a way to defeat them. He gestured around the room. I have been on your ship for a few hours and I already understand how your basic systems work. Your artificial gravity, your air recycling, your power distribution. In a few more hours, I will understand much more. Dr. Kixandra realized with growing alarm that everything he said was probably true. His questions and observations since waking up had shown an understanding of their technology that should have been impossible. There is something else you need to know, Tejo said, his voice becoming even more serious. You think you captured me without anyone on Earth noticing. You were wrong. Captain Velthara felt a chill run through her scaled skin. What do you mean? I mean that humans have been watching the Watchers, Tejo replied. We detected your ship weeks ago. We know you have been observing us. We have been waiting to see what you would do. The bridge communication system suddenly activated, and an alien crew member's voice filled the room. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. It appears to be directed specifically at us. Valthara looked at Tahoe with growing dread. What have you done? Tahoe smiled that same unfriendly smile from before. I have not done anything, Captain. Okay. But my people have been very busy while you were studying me. Okay. The aliens were beginning to realize that their simple research mission had become something far more complex and dangerous than anything they had ever encountered before. The transmission from Earth crackled through the ship's communication system. Captain Valtara rushed to the bridge with her security team, leaving Dr. Kixandra to watch Lee Tejo. The human remained calm, sitting on the examination table, as if he was waiting for something interesting to happen. This is Park Sojin of the Earth Defense Research Division, came a clear voice speaking perfect Kethmori language. We know you have taken our citizen Lee Tejo. We demand his immediate return. Dr. Kixandra stared at Tejo in shock. That voice spoke our language perfectly. How is that possible? My sister is very smart, Tejo replied simply. She learns languages quickly. All humans do when we need to. On the bridge, Captain Valthera was trying to understand how the humans had learned to speak Kethmori. How did your species acquire our language? She transmitted back to Earth. The same way you learned ours, came the reply. By listening and studying. We've been monitoring your communications for weeks. Did you think we would not notice a ship in our solar system? Commander Noctul limped onto the bridge, still holding his injured arm. Captain, this is impossible. Our stealth systems are the best in the Empire. No primitive species should be able to detect us. Apparently, these humans are not as primitive as we thought. Valthara replied grimly. Back in the medical bay, Tejo was studying the room's security systems. He had noticed that the door controls used a simple pattern recognition system. The aliens had designed their technology for their own four-fingered hands, but the principles were not difficult to understand. What are you looking at? Dr. Kixandra asked nervously. Your security system, Tejo answered honestly. It is well designed, but not perfect. The lock mechanism relies on a pressure sequence that assumes all users have the same hand structure as your species. Dr. Kixandra realized with alarm that the human was studying ways to escape. The door is sealed. You cannot leave this room. Every system has weaknesses, Tejo replied. In my military training, we learned that the strongest fortress always has a weakness that its builders never considered. He stood up and walked to the wall near the door. Running his fingers along the surface, he found what he was looking for. Your ship's design assumes that all crew members are the same size and strength as your species. But humans are different. The human pressed against a panel that was positioned for the alien's height. Because he was shorter, he could apply pressure at an angle that the designers had never tested. The panel shifted slightly, revealing access to the door's manual override system. Stop, Dr. Kixandra commanded, but Tejo was already working on the override mechanism. Your communication system connects to this room, Tejo said as he worked. I can hear the conversation between your captain and my sister. Earth is not asking for my return. Earth is demanding it. There is a difference. Dr. Kixandra activated her emergency communicator. Captain, the human is attempting to escape. He has found a way to access the door systems. Valthara's voice came back immediately. Security teams to medical bay, immediately. Do not let the specimen escape. But Tejo had already opened the door. He stepped into the corridor and looked both ways, quickly memorizing the layout. The ship's design was logical and efficient, which made it easier for him to understand than if it had been randomly constructed. Doctor, you should stay in the medical bay, Tejo advised. What happens next might be dangerous for you. The security teams will capture you, Dr. Kixandra said, though she sounded less confident than before. Your security teams are designed to handle other aliens, Tejo replied. They are not designed to handle humans. He moved down the corridor with the quiet efficiency of a trained soldier. His years in special forces had taught him how to move through enemy territory without being detected. The alien ship was just another type of hostile environment to navigate. The first security team found him. 3 minutes later, they had expected to corner a frightened, primitive creature. Instead, they found a human who had turned their own ship's systems against them. Te-Ho had discovered that the ship's maintenance tunnels were sized for smaller repair drones, not for the aliens themselves. He could fit through spaces that the aliens could not follow. More importantly, he had learned how to manipulate the ship's lighting and air circulation systems. The security team found themselves in complete darkness as Tejo shut down the lights in their section. Their night vision equipment was designed for their own world's spectrum, not for the artificial lighting humans were used to. In the darkness, Tejo could see better than they could. Where is he? One of the security officers whispered. I am here, Tejo replied from directly behind them. The aliens spun around, but the human was already moving. He had taken a maintenance tool from one of the wall panels and used it to disable their weapons before they could react. Without their energy weapons, the aliens found themselves facing a human who had turned their technological advantage into a disadvantage. This is impossible. One of the aliens gasped as Tejo efficiently disabled the entire security team. This is adaptation, Tejo corrected. Humans are very good at it. Captain Valthera received the report from her security team with growing dread. He defeated all 6 officers. How? He used our own ship against us, Captain, came the shaken reply. He understands our systems better than we thought possible. He moves to the ship like he built it himself. On the bridge, the communication from Earth continued. We are tracking your ship's position, Park Sojin's voice said. We know exactly where you are and what you are doing. Return our citizen now, or face the consequences. What consequences? Althera demanded. Your species does not have interstellar travel capabilities. You are correct, came the reply. We cannot reach you in space, but we do not need to. The ship's sensors suddenly detected multiple objects launching from Earth's surface. We're moving faster than any human technology the aliens had observed before. What are those? Commander Noctul asked in alarm. Those are our consequences, Park Sojin's voice replied. We have been preparing for this possibility for much longer than you have been watching us. Meanwhile, Tejo had reached the ship's main computer core. His understanding of their technology had grown with each system he encountered. The aliens had made their ship's interfaces too logical and efficient. A human with military training could learn to use them quickly. Computer, display ship's main functions, he said in the Kethmori language he had been learning by listening to the alien speak to his satisfaction. The computer responded. The aliens had not considered that their prisoner might learn their language well enough to give commands to their own systems. Captain Valthera's worst fears were confirmed when our bridge crew reported that someone was accessing their main computer from inside the ship. The human has reached our central systems, Captain, the computer officer reported. He is learning our ship's capabilities and weaknesses. Valthera realized that their situation had completely reversed. They were no longer studying a primitive specimen. They were being hunted through their own ship by something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. All crew members to emergency stations, she ordered. We are no longer conducting a research mission. We are now in a survival situation. The hunter had become the hunted. And the aliens were beginning to understand that humans were the apex predators of their own world for very good reasons. Lee Tejo stood in the ship's main computer room his hands moving across the alien control panels with growing confidence. Each system he accessed taught him more about their technology and their weaknesses. The aliens had built their ship, assuming that only they would ever use it. That assumption was proving to be a fatal flaw. Ship's computer displayed defense systems. He commanded in Kethmori. The computer obediently showed him the ship's weapons, shields, and armor specifications. Kehoe studied the information carefully, memorizing everything that might be useful. Then he began to make changes on the bridge. Captain Valthera watched in horror as her ship's systems began shutting down one by one. First, the weapons went offline, then the shields, then the navigation controls. "Captain, we are losing control of all primary systems," her computer officer reported. "The human has administrative access to our main computer." "How is that possible?" Commander Noctul demanded. "Our security protocols should prevent any unauthorized access." "Our security protocols were designed to keep other aliens out," Velthara replied grimly. "They were not designed to stop a human who thinks differently than we do." The communication system activated again, and Park Seo-jin's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Velthara, this is your final warning. Return our citizen immediately or face the full consequences of your actions." "Your projectiles cannot reach us at this distance," Velthara replied, though she was no longer certain of anything. "Our projectiles are not meant to reach you," came the surprising answer. "They are meant to reach your home system." The aliens on the bridge stared at each other in shock. "That is impossible," Commander Noctul said. "Your species does not have faster than light travel." "You are correct," Park Seo-jin replied. "But we do have other technologies that you have not observed. While you were watching us openly, we were developing defenses in secret. The objects. We launched our carrying messages to every inhabited system within 50 light years of Earth." Captain Valthera felt her blood turn cold. "What kind of messages?" "Complete technical specifications of your ship, your weapons, your technology, and your intentions. We're telling every species in this region of space that the Kethmori Empire captures and experiments on intelligent beings without permission." Dr. Kixandra's voice came through the internal communication system. "Captain, the human has accessed our ship's communication logs. He has copies of all our transmissions back to the Empire." Valthara realized with growing horror what this meant. "You are sending evidence of our research to other species." "We are warning them," Park Seo-jin confirmed. "Every species you have studied, every planet you have visited, every research mission you have conducted. We are sharing all of it with your potential enemies." In the computer room, Teho continued his work. He had found something interesting in the ship's database, records of dozens of other species that the Kethmori had captured and studied. Many of these species were more advanced than Earth, and some of them had good reasons to hate the Empire. "Computer, transmit all research files to the following coordinates," he commanded, reading off a list of locations that Park Seo-jin had provided during her conversation with the captain. The computer began transmitting terabytes of classified information to multiple star systems. Within hours, dozens of alien civilizations would know exactly what the Kethmori Empire had been doing in secret. Captain Valthera arrived at the computer room with the remainder of her crew, but she stopped outside the door when she saw Teho, working calmly at the controls. "Human," she called out. "We need to negotiate." Teho looked up from the control panel. "Now you want to negotiate. That is interesting timing, Captain." "You have made your point," Velthara said. "We underestimated your species. We made a mistake in capturing you." "You made many mistakes," Teho replied. "But the biggest mistake was thinking that humans would not fight back." He turned to face the group of aliens standing in the doorway. "I have sent copies of all your research to 17 different species that you have been studying. 3 of those species have military technology superior to yours. 2 of them have been looking for an excuse to declare war on your empire. Commander Noctul stepped forward angrily. You have doomed us all. I have given you a choice, Teho corrected. You can return me to Earth and establish proper diplomatic contact with my species, or you can face the consequences of your actions with every species you have betrayed. Captain Velthara understood the situation perfectly. The human had not just escaped from captivity. He had turned their own intelligence gathering against them. Every secret mission, every illegal research project, every violation of interstellar law was now public knowledge. What do you want? She asked. I want to go home, Taiho replied simply. I want your empire to leave Earth alone until we are ready for proper first contact. And I want your government to understand that humans are not prey animals to be studied and captured. Dr. Kixandra stepped forward nervously. Our Science Council will want to know everything about your species. This information is too valuable to ignore. Then they can ask politely and wait for an answer, Teho said. A tease, how civilized species interact with each other. The ship's communication system activated one final time. Father, are you ready to come home? Park Sojin's voice asked in Korean. I am ready, Sister Teho replied in the same language. But first, our new friends need to understand something important. He switched back to Kethmori and addressed Captain Velthara directly. Your empire needs to know that Earth has been preparing for contact with alien species for much longer than you have been watching us. We have contingency plans for every possible scenario, including hostile contact. What kind of contingency plans? Velthara asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. The kind that ensure our survival and freedom, Teho replied. Earth is not a helpless planet waiting to be conquered or studied. Earth is a fortress world inhabited by the most adaptable and dangerous species in this region of space. We would rather destroy ourselves than become subjects of any empire. He gestured toward the viewing screen that showed Earth in the distance. Take me home, Captain. Report to your superiors that humans are to be approached as equals, not as specimens. And remember that you learned this lesson from a single construction worker who used to be a soldier. Captain Velthara gave the order to return to Earth. As her ship began its journey home, she started composing her report to the Empire. She would recommend that humanity be classified as a Class A Apex species, and that all future contact be conducted through proper diplomatic channels. 3 hours later, Lee Teho stepped off the alien ship and onto Earth soil at a secure military facility. Park Sojin was waiting for him with a team of scientists and soldiers who had been preparing for this moment. How was your trip, brother? She asked with a smile. Educational, Teho replied. I learned that we are not alone in the universe, and they learned that kidnapping a human is a very bad idea. As the alien ship departed for its home system, both species understood that everything had changed. The age of secret observation and casual abduction was over. The age of careful diplomacy between equals had begun, and somewhere in the depths of space, other alien civilizations were receiving detailed information about the Kethmori Empire's illegal activities, preparing to demand answers and justice for decades of unauthorized research. The humans had taught the universe an important lesson. Never underestimate a species that has survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy.